All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting of April 9th, the Placerville City Council to order. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good evening. Welcome to this evening's City Council meeting. Happy to have everybody and our distinguished staff members here. Go ahead and call the roll.
Mayor Acuna?
Here.
Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And before we go any further, I'd like to take just a moment and recognize our city manager that just celebrated his birthday this past Saturday and wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much, Cleve, for all your service to the city. Moving on to item 3, announcements and presentations to the public. 3.1, brief comments by city council members. I believe I'm going to start. Councilmember Taylor, do you have any announcements for us this evening?
No announcements this evening.
All right, thank you. Patty, did you have anything?
Nope, I don't think so.
Quiet so far. Vice Mayor Zaragoza.
I attended the El Dorado High School baseball team's crab feed. They did a great job, raised a ton of money for the team. Everybody was really great about it. They did the 50-50 drawing, and the people that won put the money right back into the program. So kudos to everyone that was involved in that. And then just want to thank all the staff at the goal-setting workshops that we've had. We've had 2 now, and just really great as a new council member to have that sort of deep dive on all of the policy and the issues. And so it was extremely helpful to me, and I think it was really good for us to get our priorities out there as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Well, I had the occasion this weekend to travel to a little town in Oklahoma called Seminole. And I have to say that I have found a whole new appreciation for our community here. What they go through and what the struggles are that they have to keep their town barely breathing is I don't know how they do it. And it gave me a whole lot of appreciation for our staff, for what they do, and for our city and our community. And I have to tell you, we really don't have it that bad.
What's their population, Darren?
About 10,000.
2?
10.
10, same
Yeah.
as us?
Mhm.
Wow.
In the name of the community?
Seminole, Oklahoma.
Seminole.
Yes, went back there for a funeral, but yeah, most of their population is elderly. Most of the young people are moving away for better opportunities, and the town is slowly spiraling, and we're quite fortunate for what we have here. So.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for sharing that with us. I have a couple, 3 announcements this evening. First of all, I'd like to start out by thanking the Vice Mayor Zaragoza for attending the recent ribbon cutting for the parklet. I was unable to attend because I was required over at El Dorado County Transit Agency. That was the morning that we interviewed for a new executive director. For those that don't know, Mindy Jackson, who has a 25-year career as the executive director, she will be leaving on May the 3rd. Her last board meeting will be on May 2nd. So anyone that wishes to come and wish Mindy success in retirement and thank her for all of her years of service in building an outstanding rural transit district will have the opportunity to do that. So again, thank you, Michael, for taking my place at the parklet. From what I can see and observe, it's quite a little success. I even hear rumors that there's another group that wants yet another parklet, so we'll see what happens with that.
And that was well attended.
It was well attended, so I appreciate everyone handling that. I really did want to be there. That was a community project, and it didn't deserve some of the inappropriate comments that were made about it by some of those individuals on social media. So thank you very much for everyone being very positive with that. I would like to also make just a brief clarification. There was a really well done article. I don't see Pat. Hello, there's Pat Lakey. She's getting a lot of mileage out of me here lately. And she had an excellent article about a week ago on the Fire Safe Council and as well as the council's current efforts to develop the new fire-safe regulations that are going to hopefully serve this community for a long time. I want to make sure that the folks do understand that I am deeply concerned about the issue, and that I recognize there's some sense that I wasn't in a hurry with the issue, and it isn't that at all. What I recognize is we were not going to have the new ordinance available to be used this fire season. Anybody that's lived here very long knows that now is when we need to be out doing all of our cleaning, and not in 2 or 3 months when we get our ordinance done. So the intent was that we're going to use our existing ordinances and regulations to deal with any fire issues this year, and we don't want to rush into creating an ordinance without having the proper public review and an opportunity for everybody to understand what we are going to adopt as a community, and as well as making sure that we work in unison with the newly formed Fire Safe Council. So just to make that clarification, this year we'll use the old ordinance, and I'm confident that next year we'll have a very new and very effective ordinance to make Placerville a safer community. And then lastly, just let everybody know that Goldbug Park is back open for the year. They opened on April 1st, and I'm sure that they've probably already welcomed folks from all over the world there. And I know the school tour buses have already begun rolling into Goldbug and Coloma. So the onslaught of the fourth graders has begun yet again. So we look forward to welcoming many thousands of them out there at our park. Okay, so that will take us to 3.2, which is our Caltrans update on the hopefully famously successful Highway 50 project that Caltrans is about to begin. Clave, is there any change that we know of from their start date of April 15th to reduce Highway 50 to one lane in each direction at the Mosquito Bridge overcrossing?
Nope, we are on schedule to begin that project on April 15th, right? Yeah,
correct.
15th through the 26th.
A week from yesterday.
So a week from yesterday, yeah.
All right, and that'll be a 12-day project, 24-hour-a-day work. They'll be pouring concrete mostly at night, so there will be some construction activity down on Mosquito Road itself. But Caltrans, from what I can see, is doing a really good job with their outreach program. There are signs, and I've seen pictures of signs from all over, starting in the Bay Area, that Highway 50 is going to have this restriction. So we're all, it will be an interesting experiment. We will get through it, and this is very much required to meet today's strength requirements for bridge safety. All right, moving on to item.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I
sir.
just had one quick question. I missed that last meeting. Were they, did Caltrans ever come to a conclusion on the crosswalks on Bedford or on Spring and?
They
I don't know.
They elected not to.
They elected not,
yeah.
not to.
Their traffic analysis folks did not feel that that would add any significant throughput. So, and there are also some questions about the status of the ADA compliance on that Caltrans right-of-way. So, between those two things, they just chose to leave the signal system pretty much as it is.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we will see.
Thank you.
Anything else, Craig?
Mayor, could I make one more announcement? I thought Amy Sellers had mentioned she was going to be here tonight, and that's the April 27th is our cleanup day, Rise and Shine cleanup day. If I could make that announcement, you can go on to Eventbrite and search Placerville to sign up for that. They are projecting that they've actually expanded the event. It's not just Placerville now, it's going outside of Placerville also, but when I talked to them in our meeting today with Matt, they're projecting 900 people total. Again, that's not just Placerville. There's a couple of other churches besides the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that are participating in it and bringing in other people to it. So should be a good event. Please sign up if you can and help us clean up Placerville that day.
And when is that again, Cleve?
April 27th starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, and when you sign up, it'll ask you what project you want to sign up for, and you will report to that project.
And the Eventbrite is the website to go to.
The event, yeah, the site to sign up.
Great, thank you.
I've done it. It's easy to do. And my grandson selected the what was it? The graveyard to go and help clean up. He loves that stuff. So we'll be at the cemetery helping clean up.
Which
there.
one?
Yeah, which one?
I'm not sure. I'm following him.
I think it's Union.
Union Cemetery?
Okay.
Oh, they all need help, so that would very welcome. Thank you, Cleve. I'm glad we didn't overlook that announcement. That's coming up soon. Closed session report. Mr. Driscoll, do you have any items to report this evening?
I do, Mayor Acuna. Two items to report. Tonight in closed session, the council, with all members present, unanimously rejected the claim of Louis Phipps and also took the same action, unanimously rejecting the claim of Jeffrey Bartlett.
Thank you, sir. All right, this moves us on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. I understand there's been a request to remove item 12.3 from this evening's agenda. Cleve, would you like to outline the options the council has? The item was asked to be removed after the agenda had been posted, and we were within the limits of removal, or beyond the limits of being able to remove it.
Right, we, after the agenda had gone out, we received a request from the Placerville Downtown Association, specifically Heidi Meyerhofer, who works for them, stating that they are requesting that we pull that item from the agenda, and they are no longer requesting to expand the event up to Cedar Ravine, so it will only go from Sacramento Street to Bedford, as it has in the past. So. And from our perspective, staff's perspective, we're fine with that. We don't see a need to discuss it any further. We can approve it and move forward as we have in previous years. Unless there's something that the council still wants to discuss, you could leave it on to discuss that. Otherwise, we will move forward with the plans for the event. So,
No, what's the wishes of the council?
I'd move that we approve the agenda minus 12.3.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the removal of item 12.3. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Agenda is adopted as amended.
But just for clarification, do we have to approve the Brewfest, the street closure? For just the-
we have not done that in the past several years,
Oh,
so
okay.
I think we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you again. And again, that was the removal of a request that would have asked to extend the Brewfest limits to from Bedford down to Cedar Ravine. So we will not be reviewing that item. All right, ceremonial matters. It is my pleasure to this evening to perform a couple of these, and one of them is for Richard Zita, who is in the audience. And Richard and I have worked together in the utility industry for many, many years. And he coincidentally happened to be married to the city clerk at the time. And I think he's still there. And our former city clerk, Susan Zito, sits next to him this evening. Richard has always been a person who gave of himself and his talents as he moved through his career as an arborist, as a certified utility arborist. And I think I could say proudly I would think of Rich as one of the leading utility arborists in the state of California. The level of expertise and the quality of the work that he always associated himself with, and the different projects that he guided for his various employers were always they were always safe, they were always appropriate, and they were always state of the art and up to date with what the industry codes required. So I've always had great admiration for the work that he did, keeping us safe. He kept the power line safe. That was what his career was focused on. Unfortunately, we don't live in a California like that right now. So the certificate this evening recognizes Richard for his gifts to the Recreation and Parks Commission. He began working with Kathy Lishman and the Community Pride Group, walking up and down Main Street, doing numerous surveys. And he's, again, you have to remember, he's a certified arborist. So when he looks at a tree, it's a business thing. It's very serious. He has to take a lot of things into consideration. And he marched up and down Main Street a number of times looking at those trees. And he dealt with a lot of questions. And he was always responsive to help the city and Community Pride. He then went on to serve from 2001 to March of 2019 as a part of our Recreation and Parks Commission. And he has, at the same time, also been kind of I've always thought of him as our unofficial arborist. So, Richard, I'd like to present you with this plaque. And again, thank you for all your years of dedicated service.
Oof. I am really taken back right now, but I want to at least have a few opportunities. I told Regina, or at least Sue told Regina, that I was going to have a 100-page response to the certification, and I was working on page 58 when we were talking. We got it down to a paragraph and a half, so if you can bear with me for that, I appreciate it. So, again, thank you, Mayor Acuna and council members, staff, and everyone in the audience for the recognition. What it really amazes me more is simply that the older you get and the more tenured you get, the more better at math you get. And I was going back when I professionally retired on March 1. I was going back through my life a little bit just for the sake of to kind of capture back and stuff. And 41 years ago, I got my degree in park administration and became a horticulturist and an arborist at that particular point in time. Worked at several park departments, including City Pasadena for 8. But when we moved up here in '85, something was missing. The park departments across the United States had changed from basically being conservatives and naturalists and going more towards the police side of things. In all my careers that I had and whatever might have come my way, I was missing always the component of being a park person. I spent some time with the El Dorado County and worked on their park department. I'm proud of Pioneer Park out there. I was part of building that. But little by little, that fell to the wayside until one day, I think his name was Ron Mueller, who was a park director and manager at the time, and he approached me and said, "Would you like to be on a commission?" Parks back then is Park and Recreation. And I said, "To do what?" He goes, "Just be a person of knowledge and join the crowd, and let's build parks and let's make parks better." So it wasn't a real great sales job that he did, but it was enough to get me back grounded again, coming into parks. And I met wonderful people like Jack Winkler and just a lot of folks, commissioners across the board. That was what their belief was to build a better park, make the community want to be a Placerville person, live here, and have a better park to go to. So I said yes to that, and I haven't looked back since until we got notified by Regina that my time was up. So I did a wholesale retirement. I left my profession of 43 years. I left, we're still trying to figure out how many years I was on the Park Commission. It's okay. Like I said, math doesn't have to get in the way of all of that, but I mean, I guess bottom line is that it's really hard to leave, but I got some new adventures coming my way. I got a music room now. I have folks that I just want to just see more often. That includes family, friends, grandkids. We got, in fact, when you're supposed to be like a Joe Montana, say I'm going to Disneyland, which I am going to Disneyland when you leave the business, and also spend more time with my lovely wife, Susan, retired city clerk of Placerville, and just have those little moments now where you can kind of regroup and do that kind of thing. I want to pay some credit to Matt Lishman. He was very persistent of trying to keep me on board. He even tracked me down underneath the sequoia out here and said, you are staying, aren't you? And I said, I'll let you know. And he did let me keep my little nameplate. So for that, I really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody else from city staff, all the commissioners, all the committees, everybody that got involved with doing anything for the city. And, I throw it out there to anybody who's listening to this, is that volunteer, get involved. I mean, you can complain, you can have any opinion you want, but you have to be part of the process to make it all come together. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Take care and be safe. All right.
Thank you, Richard. Any council comments? Yes, sir.
I never want to pass up the opportunity to thank those that have given so much of themselves over so many years to our community. And it really takes people like you to make this work, to participate alongside the staff and help them shepherd our city along. So I do want to express my appreciation, Richard. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and the city staff and those commissioners out there, and they put it together, so thank you.
I'd just like to echo Dennis's thoughts, but I also know that you have been on there a long time, and we have had a lot of improvements in our parks, and a lot of credit goes to you for that, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Take care.
I think the first band I ever saw Rich playing was years later.
Yes.
Full horn section, a keyboardist. The dirt was flying out of the ceiling at Lions Hall, as I remember. All right, we have yet another ceremonial matter this evening, 6.2. Mr. Morris, do we have anyone this evening here to receive the proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month? Hi, if you could come up to the podium and introduce yourself for our audience.
My name is Julie Senna. I am here for the Center for Violence-Free Relationships, along with my friend Stevie. She works at the center too and does all of our social media. So we want to thank you for having us here tonight.
Well, we appreciate you being here this evening. So let me go ahead and do my formal reading of the proclamation. A proclamation of the City Council, City of Placerville, declaring April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health and safety implications for the City of Placerville and beyond. And whereas rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment harm our community, and statistics show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 67 men will be raped at some point in their lives. Whereas child sexual abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience sexual assault before the age of 18. Whereas on campus, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted during their time in college. And whereas the goal of Sexual Awareness Month is more than awareness, the ultimate goal is prevention of sexual harassment, abuse, and assault. And whereas when we talk about prevention, we mean stopping sexual violence before it happens by changing the norms that allow it to exist in the first place, from attitudes, values, and behaviors to laws, institutions, and the widespread social norms. And whereas we call on our community to join us in the I Ask campaign and champion the power of asking and receiving consent, and I Ask is the statement by which individuals will demonstrate that asking for consent is a healthy, normal, and necessary part of everyday interactions, will uplift the importance of consent and transform it from being prescriptive to empowering. And whereas prevention is everyone's responsibility, all of us can create and promote a safe environment. We can intervene to stop behavior, promote healthy attitudes and relationships, believe survivors, and assist them in finding resources. And whereas we strongly support the efforts of national, state, and local sexual assault prevention programs and rape crisis centers in their efforts to create safe and healthy communities. Now, therefore, I, Mark A. Acuna, Mayor of the City of Placerville, do hereby join the Center for Violence-Free Relationships and communities across the country in playing an active role to prevent sexual violence. Along with the United States government, the state of California, and the El Dorado County, I do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Placerville. And I have this proclamation for you.
Thank you. That was great reading. We want to thank you, Mayor Acuna, and the council members and the staff. We have our Sexual Assault Awareness March coming up on, oh, thank you. This is lovely. On May 4th, and Councilmember Thomas is walking with us, as well as Chief Ortega.
I have a new member of my team.
Oh, and he's got a new team member, yay. And so everyone is welcome to come. It's May 4th here. We walk here and then down Main Street. Some high-profile people walk in the lovely red shoes, as you can see Mr. Thomas has up there. And you guys, it's great for the community too, so hopefully everyone will join us. It's a lot of fun, and the Rotary provides lunch after the walk. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julie, for your important work. Any other comments? All right, we'll move on then to item 7, which is public comment. Item 7.1, written communication. Mr. Morris, do we have any written communication this evening?
None this week, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to oral communication. This is the time where the audience is encouraged to discuss any item that they would like to the City Council on items that are not on this evening's agenda. We do ask that you keep your remarks limited to 3 minutes and in subject matters that are pertinent to the work of the City Council. Any member of the public wishing to address the Council on a non-agendized item, please approach the podium, and if you would, please state your name for the record. Pull the microphone down too, probably.
Okay.
Thank
there we
you.
go. My name is Amy Sellers, and I work with JustServe.org. And I'm just here to thank the City Council and for funding the upcoming, the materials for the upcoming day of service. We're really excited about it. I wanted to announce that the registration is open to the public. It's available on eventbrite.com and through the Community Services Department. And I wanted to invite all of you to participate. So
Thank you.
We're just really excited about the sponsors and about the projects, and we have a bunch of churches who joined and called and said, we have our own separate serve day, and it's on the same day, so we're excited that we're all going to be working together, and we look forward to more than doubling our numbers this year in the area. So we have some in the city and then some out in the schools and some in the senior parks that people will be serving in this time.
Well, thank you, Amy. Do you have any idea how many folks have signed up so far?
So far, we're just under 200, but we're looking to more like 750, and that's going to happen in the next couple weeks. So
Awesome.
we're
Well, thank you
excited.
very much.
You're welcome.
We look forward to another successful community cleanup day. All right. If there's no other person wishing to address the council on seeing Mr. Smith approaching the podium. Good evening.
Kirk Smith. Mayor Acuna, I wanted to commend you and your colleagues for how you've addressed the subject of fire prevention, the ordinance that's referred to as vegetation. I think you've been serious and contemplative in the approach that you've given. And believing it was an important topic, I freely shared the article that was on the front page of the Democrat and admit that I didn't read it at the time. Why should I? I was here. So when
You're quoted in it.
Yeah, well, and when I did read it, I was disappointed because I think there was no reason for you to give the explanation you just gave earlier, because everyone who was here, I believe, understood the context, which was much different. It was that you're not going to pander to emotions and rush something through just to make everybody feel good, that you wanted to do something that was competent, careful, and would actually make a meaningful. And that's something that I appreciate as someone who sometimes, on occasion, suggests that there's an effort to push things through and not give due deliberation. So it's exciting that you have April 30th, I think, set aside for a workshop here. There's one on April 19th down in Cameron Park by a community group. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a group called Sierra Renaissance.
I think we have heard of that one.
Okay, so that's a good one.
Yep, we do have information on that. Thank you, Kurt.
The fire council that you and Ms. Borelli attended, great ideas coming from them. One about the things that people can do to form escape routes in their area. So those are all very valuable things, and it's exciting to see that kind of input come in from the community. I did want to suggest that even if you get around to ultimately adopting what the county may do and furthering what CAL FIRE has in mind for vegetation, there's much more that can be done immediately. Public education. You could put a link to the CAL FIRE's website where they give information about what you can do to make a fire prevention area in your area. But in addition, building codes. I know when I brought that up before, the suggestion was made that that might be not immediate relief, and that's true, it's going to be long-term. But when you have something like a 100 feet clearance, that's not necessarily going to mean much when those embers can go on to other property, as we found with the Paradise Fire. So I just wanted to bring you, this is what the code, building code for Placerville, and the one for the county requires, nothing smaller, and this is 1/8 of an inch. But this vent is a Vulcan, and no embers can go through it. Also, just because you may not be involved in new construction, right now I've got a home where I'm putting in a whole attic fan, and you can do those for $200. Why? Once the air is blowing out, the vents are open in the attic. When it's off, the vents close up. There's a third kind of vent that's made, which is made of plastic, so when it gets hot, it closes. Now, I'm doing another house where I'm putting in the insulated windows, but it was only yesterday I learned that there's tempered windows available, and I'm getting them for an extra $2,000 for a dozen windows. That's important because when the glass gets hot and breaks, it's all over. So those are things that can be done for the building code, and it's not too early to start looking at it, as well as, of course, public education, so people can learn to have an escape route and where to put your valuables in case that bell starts ringing. Oh, last thing, this is decking material, and it's commonly used, looks like wood, but it burns. It burns like tires, and that's what you found up in the upper place. Last thing is, at Diamond and Lumber, they have what looks like wood. It's cement, and it's cheaper than wood, and no bugs, no dry rot, and fireproof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. You brought a lot of the current examples of how we can retrofit every existing home in Placerville and keep the fire brands outside.
Mayor Acuna, as part of the Fire Council, we are going to be presenting programs, and a lot of the things that Mr. Smith talked about will be included. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of demonstrations and stuff. So.
And if there's no other member of the public wishing to speak to the council, Mrs. Zito, good evening.
Good evening. Since I'm here, just want to remind the council on behalf of Goldbrook Park Development Committee that our first fundraiser of the fundraising season is May 25th, Saturday, May 25th, which is the Saturday of the Memorial Day weekend. We'll have the Priest Mine tours once again. And then with the very popular Murder in the Mine event, mystery murder dinner at Goldbug, which sells out fairly quickly. This is our third year. It is now going to be August 24th. We've been having it in July, but it will be August 24th, catered by John Sanders of Old Town Grill, as he did last year. There will be a new mystery each year. A new mystery is written. We've had gunshots up in the mine. We've had a murder up there. We've had bodies all over the pavilion. I'm not sure what this year will be, but I think for those of you that have attended in the past, I know Councilmember Thomas has been there and Councilmember Borelli's been there. It's a very fun night. All proceeds go back to the park for our educational displays. And then again, we'll have the second Priest Mine tour of the year. And the Priest Mines only open up those 2 days of the year. Will be the Saturday of the Labor Day weekend, and we'll complete our fundraising for the year.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the update on upcoming events out at the park. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. And since Mr. Smith was kind enough to bring it up, Cleve, just to remind everybody, including myself, we are still moving ahead with the community chat for the fire safe issues on April the 30th.
That's correct. We will be there on April 30th.
Do you have an idea?
Right here, 6 o'clock. We will do a presentation on our draft ordinance and answer any questions, take comments, et cetera, so that we can be prepared to move forward with that. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move on to item 8, the consent calendar. The consent calendar will be considered under one motion unless a member of the council wishes to have an item removed for further discussion. Is there any items for discussion?
I'll move.
Second.
All right. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on an item on this evening's consent calendar? Seeing no one approaching the podium, I would just like to make a brief comment regarding item 8.4 which is the employment agreement with Terry Zeller and Nick Stone. And I would just like to say officially, take this point in the meeting to welcome and recognize and congratulate Nick Stone as our Director of Public Works. He is now officially filling that role full-time, and we look forward to him putting his own touch on our Public Works Department. So congratulations, Nick. All right, there was a motion to approve the consent. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
All right, that consent is approved. Thank you very much. Which brings us on to item 12. Good night, Reg. Go home and watch us on TV. Shoot us with the dart gun. All right, item 12.1, adopt a resolution. Doing a number of things, mostly focused on the Upper Broadway Bike Lane and Pedestrian Crossing Connection Project. I'm going to ask the city engineer to give us a brief report on it.
Good evening, Mayor Acuna, Vice Mayor Zaragoza, and council members. The proposed item before you this evening is for approval of Amendment Number 4 to the design contract with REY Engineers, Inc., ratification of various right-of-way acquisition contracts related to the project, and associated acceptance and appropriation of project funding for the Upper Broadway Bike Lanes and Pedestrian Connection Project. City staff has long identified the need for construction of contiguous pedestrian and bicycle facilities within the Broadway corridor in the interest of public safety. The Upper Broadway Bike Lanes and Pedestrian Connection Project proposes to construct these facilities along Broadway between approximately Schnell School Road east to Jakeway Point View Drive, with minor signing and striping to connect the El Dorado Trail at each end, and strategically located sidewalks, additional pedestrian improvements, and transit facilities. Improvements to Broadway include the widening and slight roadway realignment to allow for the addition of the Class 2 bike lane in the eastbound uphill direction and striping of a Class 3 bike route in the westbound or the downhill direction, and construction of curb gutter, sidewalk, and pedestrian pathways on the south side of Broadway in select areas. The project is funded through the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, better known as CMAQ, with 2 cycles of the Active Transportation Program, one federal, one state, and with Transportation Development Act funds through the courtesy of El Dorado County Transportation Commission. Measure L is providing the local match for the roadway improvements. With the complexity of this project, additional design and right-of-way tasks have become necessary to complete the project bid documents and support through the very end of the project as it moves forward towards construction and ultimately project closeout. The proposed amendment includes these additional tasks as well as other tasks that were also de-scoped in the interest of time to make room for various additional tasks that have come up since the start of the project in the interest of moving the project forward. For example, these items included additional environmental technical studies required by Caltrans, additional utility assessment coordination, PUC coordination, and funding applications. Furthermore, all the project funding sources carry an aggressive delivery timeline. With the proposed acquisition contract ratifications before you this evening, this significant milestone of the right-of-way phase will be complete. These initial right-of-way contracts were brought forward for council's review under closed session at the end of last year. The project milestone schedule shows that the design will be finalized in June of this year, with bidding in fall of this year and construction starting spring of next year and concluding in fall of next year. As these milestones approach, staff will also be commencing with public outreach to the community, especially to the impacted parcels and businesses within the project limits. Staff's recommendations are summarized at length in the report before you this evening. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Is there any questions from the council at this point? Again, this is a project that we've been working along steadily now for a number of seasons. If there's no questions at this point, I'll go ahead and open a public comment on this item. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council on item 12.1, various approvals for the Upper Broadway Bike and Pedestrian Project?
Sue Rodman, Measure H&L Committee. And I think that we are very pleased to contribute so that we can provide the matching funds in order to complete this project. So, good for Measure L. It's going to help us again.
Yes, it is. All right. Thank you, Sue. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on this particular item? Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the council for action. If there's any questions, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Rebecca, and it's good to see that the right-of-way acquisitions went along smoothly. Huge step. All right, moving on to item 12.2. Yet another item from our from our city engineer and our public works department, approving various paving contracts, as I guess is the way I would summarize item 12.2. Nick, do you have the report on this?
Yes, Mayor, I do. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. The purpose of the staff report is to secure SB1 funding to address basic road maintenance and rehabilitation needs within the city of Placerville. On April 28, 2017, Governor Brown signed SB1, also known as the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, a landmark transportation funding package. SB1 provides funding to address basic road maintenance, rehabilitation, and critical safety needs on state highways, along with local streets and road systems. SB1 increases per gallon fuel excise taxes, diesel fuel sales taxes, vehicle registrations, and provides for inflationary adjustments to future tax rates. Pursuant to Streets and Highways Code, Section 2034A1 and 2, prior to receiving an apportionment of RMRA funds from the state controller in a fiscal year, the city must submit to the CTC a list of projects or road maintenance resources proposed to be funded with these funds, pursuant to the adopted resolution at a regular public meeting. The online submittal period for this is from March 29th, 2019 to May 1st, 2019. This city manager's report will assist in completing the requirement for fiscal year 2019-2020. Beginning on November 1st, 2017, the state controller began depositing various apportionments of this new funding into an RMRA for the fiscal year 2017-2018. A percentage of this new funding is apportioned by formula to eligible cities and counties for basic road maintenance, rehabilitation, and critical safety projects on local streets. It is anticipated that the city will receive approximately $188,144 within the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Road maintenance and rehabilitation projects will be included within the 2019-2020 capital improvement program budget. This additional funding source will enable the city to expand its pavement management program to address deferred road maintenance throughout the city, including utility patch paving repairs, crack sealing, and slurry sealing. The RMRA funding will provide all necessary personnel, labor, equipment, and supplies to implement the projects. The city must submit these projects and supporting documents to the CTC by May 1st, 2019. Once a project submittal has been received and deemed complete by CTC staff, the city will be added to the list of jurisdictions eligible to receive funding. The list of eligible cities and counties will be brought forward by the CTC to submit to the state controller's office. Once received, the controller will then distribute the calculated apportionments to the list of eligible agencies. The League of California Cities forecasts Placerville's fiscal year 2019-2020 RMRA revenues to total $188,144, and staff is recommending $133,144 budget apportionment in RMRA revenues to perform crack sealing and slurring on various streets throughout the city, and $55,000 to perform utility patch paving repairs throughout the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Are there any questions from the council at this time on the staff report? No? All right, thank you. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council on item 12.2? All right, seeing no one approaching the podium, I'll close public comment on the item, bring it back to the council for discussion and action. I had one question. I don't know who'd laugh more, Dave Warren or the police chief, but it looks to me like this is going to secure the what we now have given the elegant name of utility patch paving, fixing our own holes, in other words. We will now be able to proceed with that in this next fiscal year, sending that out to an outside contractor. Can you describe that, Nick, as how that $55,000 allocation, how that's going to work?
Yes, Mayor, that's exactly what that would be for. In the past, once Public Works staff has gone out and repaired either a sewer main or a water main, something underground, a lot of times we didn't have either enough staff to go out and properly pave that, or another problem that we'd come into sometimes is during the winter, hot mix asphalt isn't being made. So a lot of times the most convenient thing would be to go out there, put cold patch in it, and that lasts for a while, but it's, as you see, it's not a long-term effect. So over the past year, a list is developed of existing areas that need to be brought up and fixed with hot mix asphalt. So those are some of the first areas that we're going to tackle, get caught up on a lot of those, and then move forward with a program where an outside contractor comes in and hot mix asphalt the areas immediately after Public Works crews go out and make a repair.
Awesome. Been a long time coming, and I appreciate getting to this point.
That doesn't seem like a lot of money to me.
Wyatt, let's just get something done. No. There's a lot of, well, they've got a pretty comprehensive list, and staff, the Public Works staff has done a good job of, when they get done, they generally try and leave the work site ready for a hot repair, the hot asphalt repair. You do your saw cut and what have you, and we just have never been able to get to that next. The biggest one is right there on the corner of Bedford and Main Street where we fixed the water line leak.
Yes, Mayor. And a lot of times it seems like we have every intention of going back and paving, but another water line will break the next day, and we're right on top of that one.
They talk underground, see, and we're not.
Welcome to Placerville.
Yeah, so this is spread out all across the city.
Good.
And we don't discriminate on this particular one. You just did a new one on Cedar Ravine. So the list has gone up by one. All right, is there any other comments? Would someone like to make a motion on that?
I'd like to move for the.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick, and Rebecca, and Cleve, and Dave. And the Measure L people, too. All right, moving on to council member reports. El Dorado County Transit Authority. I'll ask Councilmember Taylor to report on that.
Well, we've been in the process of interviewing for the executive director position, as you've mentioned earlier. That's kind of the biggest news coming out of the most recent transit meeting. So.
When will it be announced?
Probably,
hopefully by the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Probably next week,
Yeah.
I would think. The
Whoever it is has got.
There were two really good applicants.
Yes,
and,
Great.
yeah.
You got big shoes to fill.
Yes.
Yes, I do. All right, thank you, Kara. Patty, would you like to give a report on the Transportation Commission?
Yes, I conducted probably one of the shortest transportation meetings I've had since
That
I've been
might have been a record, yeah.
But it was, we, we had the, Woody Delory, our executive director, went through all the things that they're working on. I tell you, that group is involved in more, I don't know how they get it all done with just their little staff, but they do a tremendous job. So, and I'm not going to go through them all, but it was a very successful.
All good then.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's see, who's next here? LAFCO, we meet in a couple of weeks, so I'll have a report after our next meeting. Vice Mayor Zaragoza, SACOG, anything to report?
Yeah, we had our Transportation Committee hearing in the morning, and then on to the Transportation in the afternoon with El Dorado. But a couple of things to report out of that. We're moving closer to kind of adopting our final MTP SCS, so the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, kind of our final recommendation to the full board, and then taking a position on that. And that will include things that has the pricing. So this rolls in all of the housing elements, all of the transportation flows. You'll see things like pay-as-you-go transportation in terms of tolling or sort of HOV lanes, as well as potentially moving to a pay-as-you-go with mileage. I think the consensus is the state's moving in that direction. In our area, so the 6-county area, we're looking at being sort of first out there. We'd like to be not so much a test area, but kind of getting ahead of the curve, knowing that that's probably where we're going to end up being. And just for the record on that, if we do end up going to a mileage tax, there's plenty of discussion that will go on regarding how that affects rural areas like our own, and so there's equity built into that, as well as that the current gas taxes that we're paying, that would eventually phase out. So there won't be gas taxes and everything else that we're paying on top of a pay-as-you-go. It would be moving one for the other. And so you're not going to have this stacking of taxes. It would be a replacement, if you will, going forward. And part of that is just with increased efficiency in vehicles. We're just getting less gas tax dollars coming in. There's not enough money to maintain the roads that we're currently on. You can make a bigger policy statement about how the state of California spends some of our other money, but that's likely where this is heading. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. And then the toll and the toll and the HOV lanes, that's something that will be recommended probably for Highway 50, for 80, 99, all the major corridors will probably see some form of that at least be put forward. Whether or not there's agreement on doing that, is a whole other issue, because they are called freeways because they're free, and we'd be moving to a whole different, a whole different thing. So, anyways, that's more to come on that, but we're kind of getting closer to putting that sort of officially out there.
Mike, could you explain that mileage, how it would work then, how it's going to be taxed?
Yes. So, and again, there's a lot of discussion as to how that would ultimately look, because you have places like us and people in the far north and other areas that are in rural spots that will be disproportionately affected by that if you're driving into a major urban center to go to work or whatever it might be. So,
and why? I mean, that's what I want the public.
Yes. So, and so we want to make sure there's, well, not just us, but the legislature, I think everybody wants to make sure that there's equity built into this, so that if you're living in a certain area, you're not going to be disadvantaged by a pay-as-you-go. The ideal that it would be somewhat of a wash between what you're paying now and what we'd be paying later, just that it would be more consistent. There will be some people that end up paid more. I mean, I think that it will be hard to not have that, and I think that's going to be the devil in the details when we move forward on this. And so for myself and for others that live in these areas, we want to make sure that our areas aren't going to be the ones that have to pay a disproportionate amount, depending on how this works out. There's already beta testing going on that the CTC has implemented, and so some of that data will be coming back. And again, it's not, it will generate probably several $billion more each fiscal year. At least this is what they're projecting at this point on this.
How are they going to ascertain the miles?
The miles. So there's a few different ways that could go. It could be like a USB stick on a car that kind of tracks it. It could be through GPS. It could be some form of self-reporting within like a band of miles that people would have. There's not an answer yet on that. I know right now they're doing the beta testing with essentially like a USB, where they're tracking the miles with a kind of a plug-and-play type of thing. But that might not be the best way, and there's privacy concerns. There's a lot of things that we are going to have to go through before that becomes official. But I think in the next decade, we're probably going to be seeing a movement to go that way, at least in the next 10 years. I don't think before then, but it's moving in that direction.
The reason we're being penalized is because we're up here traveling a lot of extra miles that they don't have, and we don't have transit and.
That's correct. So and that's the thing is, if it's one thing if you live in the suburbs and you're traveling into an urban center where there's light rail or there's a bus system, when you live out in our area or out in, Orville or somewhere where there's just not that level of public transportation, there has to be a give and take so that you're not penalizing those people for living in rural parts of the state. And so those are the sort of the math that still has to go into it and the policy discussions so that those areas do receive equity if and when we do go that route.
Well, thank you. I just wanted you to explain it because the
Absolutely.
public is really confused,
Yep.
So the freeway will become a fee-way.
That is yes.
That will be a smooth semantic transition.
Yes. Yes, at least portions of it potentially, like you see in the Bay Area or in parts of Los Angeles, fast track, things like that. Yep.
So my question is, they're coming out of the gate, and this is not going to be revenue neutral out of the gate. They're looking to generate additional revenue on top of SB1 and.
It will generate new revenue, but SB1, so the money that we're currently getting out of SB1 would go away. So, because you wouldn't have those dollars anymore, it would just be the dollars based on a pay-as-you-go. If the state went to a full pay-as-you-go model, so you would eliminate all those taxes that are currently in place today.
for gas.
At least that's what we're talking about. I'm sure there'll be some that may say, let's keep something in there, but no, the idea would be that you replace one for the other.
There's a lot of head shaking going on.
Thank you.
Frumping
So,
and some other things.
in my small amount of knowledge on this, but
Well,
No,
it's
it's a huge issue, and it affects the future, and that is very, very, very important.
so
Thank
more
you.
to come.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Dennis to report on the 2x2.
Well, 2x2, where two of our council members meet with two of the supervisors from the county, and probably my biggest takeaway from that meeting was a discussion about homeless and the opportunity to have a better interaction with the county's human health services. And while I didn't walk away with with any firm commitments on that, they recognize the need for us to have a better, I think they recognize the need for us to have a better working relationship with them. However, I don't believe that we made a ton of headway, and I think we're going to keep those lines of communication open and keep requesting that, for lack of better words. So that was probably my biggest takeaway on that for those meetings. Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Questions on any of that? All right. Thank you very much. Request for future agenda items. I have one that occurred to me after our second department head workshop, and that is the current impact that PG&E is having on our public works projects and their non-response stance at the moment, and the fact that it's putting federal and state funding at risk. Is that something that we should daylight so that if we need to take action, we can talk to our legislators or the California Public Utility Commission? And
Yeah, we could put together a report that basically talks about what our concerns are with that and bring back should do it at your next meeting in order to keep it moving.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've got information this morning that there are a whole new set of issues brewing at that company that are putting tremendous workforce strains that have to be things that have to be documented and inspected by June 1st. I mean, they're making a nationwide search for
Is it what that judge ordered?
for certain. It probably could very well be part of that. So I can see that their focus is going to continue to drift the wrong way, and it certainly would have a big impact on the mosquito project. All right, thank you. If we can do that, appreciate it. Moving on to item 15, city manager and staff reports. Cleve, did you have anything else for us this evening?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any department heads? Okay. Scotty's not here. He's waiting patiently out in the truck.
Matt has one thing.
Mr. Lishman, I can't hardly. You're just a crew cut from over
That's
here.
right. Yeah.
Yes, good evening,
I'm
Mayor.
sorry. Yes, sir.
Members of the council, I just wanted to let the public know that this Saturday is our annual fishing derby from 9 to 11 at Lumsden
Thank you.
Park. and it's for ages preschool through 8th grade. It's all free.
And it's hosted by?
It's hosted by the City of Placerville, the Lions Club, and the Kiwanis Club.
And the Kiwanis. Yeah.
And the fish are all, they're donated through the El Dorado County Fish and Game Commission through the state of California. And the Kiwanis Club also donates money to buy some. I think we're going to have some really big fish this year. So
awesome! And
so come on out.
It ought to be, the park ought to be beautiful, and the pond ought to be in pretty good shape.
Oh, it looks better than ever.
Yes, this is the time of the year to enjoy the pond.
What's the time of that?
Yeah.
The time again, Matt?
It is 9 to 11 for all ages, preschool through 8th grade.
All right.
And do we need to bring our own fishing poles, or is there equipment provided?
We have a very limited amount, so ideally we ask everybody to bring their own equipment, but if somebody doesn't have it, we try to help them out with some stuff that we have.
Are we talking worms or spinners? Or
Power bait.
Power bait?
Worms.
Okay.
Oh, we have another fisher person up here. Kira's going to be out there knocking them out of the pond. Thank you, Matt. That's excellent. I appreciate that. That is a long-standing spring event.
Oh, my daughter.
For that part. And I also thank you, Matt, for popping up there, because I want to thank staff for the work that they have done with the pre-emergent spraying out at Lions Park. Whichever staff department was responsible for that, that is looking great. And the areas that are now sprayed, and they're done for the year. And they have been a constant headache for some of our big softball events and stuff. No weeds this year, and no star thistle. I mean, this was a big plus. So thank you guys very much for getting on that. Horrible year to try and time that, but you got it done. You fooled Mother Nature long enough. So, all right. Well, we have a very long list of upcoming items for our next meeting. I'm not going to go ahead and read through all these. I can see a couple here very important. One would be the Peace Officers Memorial Day Proclamation. Certainly want to recognize that. I see that we have some more paving contracts coming forward, and we're going to be discussing the Measure HL Sales Tax Committee makeup. So if that being no other business to conduct this evening, I'll adjourn us into our next regular meeting, which will be on April 23rd with a 5:30 closed session. Thank you and good night.